Hey, Maegan.
Hey.
We are here. We have arrived. What were you just saying a minute ago? You couldn't believe that
That we're finishing this book.
Yeah, this is the final chapter
Yeah.
of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill that we are reviewing. And what podcast is this?
The Self-Help Hangover podcast.
With Maegan and Kirk.
Yeah.
And what perspectives are we bringing to this reading of Self-Help Hangover, of Think and Grow Rich?
Plot twist, someone else is reviewing our podcast on their guru podcast.
What?
Just
Is
kidding.
this something that I don't know
No,
about?
it's not.
Oh, you just made that up?
I just made it up, but the perspectives we're bringing, I'm bringing the perspective of a non-religious, somewhat spiritual gal, and my dad is a religious but skeptical man. So,
Okay. Yeah, and I'm also, like, this book was really foundational for me. Like, when I was growing up, we talked about in the first episode, I grew up in a house that was very LDS and Latter-day Saint, that is, and very musical, and also very into the Amway business, right?
yeah.
And so, so just reviewing this book, I've got 3 decades behind me since that was the life that I was living, right? And a lot has happened in my own life and business since then. So I am here to review that and also just hang out with my daughter and talk to you, Maegan, about success principles and what part of it is still useful, what parts of it are maybe less useful or even potentially harmful in some ways.
Yeah.
And we are on the final chapter, but before we get to the final chapter, I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff that we have to cover. The first thing is I was making a joke about how we don't have any advertisers.
And we got an advertiser.
And I said, we if anybody wants to advertise on here, then it'll cost $3, $1 for me, $1 for Maegan,
and $1 for Bryan.
and $1 for Bryan.
And he got a $3 Venmo.
And yes, I got a $3 Venmo. By the way, did he talk to you about our ads
I'm gonna
yet?
reach out again because
I'll spoil it. It won't be an ad in this episode, but we got a Venmo from Blair Hodges, who is such a great podcaster. In fact, one of my very favorite early podcasts was the Maxwell Institute podcast, when Blair was the host of that podcast, and he was always such a good, just informed host, very smart. Like he speaks super intelligently, but he's also super prepared. So he always reads the book or the writings of the guest that's coming on, asks really good questions. And since then, he has left the Maxwell Institute and moved on to host his own podcasts, including Relationscapes, which is his current project, and basically is a podcast that has helped me understand where a lot of people are coming from, with lives that are different from mine. So he'll interview somebody that is like a gay person or a trans person or a single person or just like all of these different ways that we can have a family or relationships, and authors that tackle a lot of those things. A recent episode was about disability. In fact, I don't even know if that's the term that's used these days, but ableism, right?
Yeah.
In fact, he's messaged me a few times after some of our episodes, and he says, "I think you're going way too easy on Napoleon Hill in terms of his ableism."
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we could get Blair to come on and talk about that sometime.
Yeah, one of the episodes that I listened to of his podcast, Relationscapes, was super interesting. It was about masculinity in ancient Rome, I believe, and I need to get the exact details, but it's about, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher this so bad, but it's basically about this philosopher and writer in, I believe it was ancient Rome, and his perspective on masculinity was so interesting because, and it also talks about sexuality. Like, one of the things that stood out to me was that this guy always like jokes about or this guy would kind of like make fun of and challenge masculinity, but one of the things he writes about is about how like men and like homosexuality was viewed. Like a man could, I hope this isn't too like graphic, but they talk about it, but like a man could penetrate a man and that was totally fine. But if a man was penetrated by a man, then they were considered gay and made fun of and like persecuted, which is so interesting. So
that seems like a double standard.
Yeah. So it's just such an interesting thing to hear about. And I don't know, I just really like that podcast. It was super interesting. So
Relationscapes with Blair Hodges. This is not an official commercial.
Yeah. That will be an additional $3.
No, that was free. That part was free.
Yeah, no.
If it pops up in the ad section, that will be Blair spending his $3. By the way, now that we've got a $3 ad contract, I think we can start raising our prices. So the next person who wants to advertise after Blair is going to have to pay us $6.
$6.
So
also,
that's $2
I've
for me.
never gotten $1 from you.
Oh my gosh, I was going to ceremoniously hand each of you a dollar bill. But I don't think I actually have a dollar bill on me.
He doesn't have cash.
I'm not going to Venmo you because then you'll lose like.
That's true because it costs
like
something. It charges a fee.
Anyway, so yes, I will give both of you. I will get you your money from the Venmo that I received.
Thank you.
So yeah, if you're our next advertiser, $6. We're raising our prices. So
every time we'll double it.
That's right. If you double things, they can get pretty big.
Yeah.
So we're looking to the future, you guys. We have thought, and we are putting into practice our success principle of doubling our advertising cost. Yeah. Okay, so what else is different since last time we recorded?
I found out that I have low iron, so I'm taking tons of iron supplements and eating food with iron, so that's the biggest thing with me.
Oh, well, I'm glad that you found that out and that you're taking care of yourself.
So let me know if anybody has any advice for that, because I would love to know.
We're also recording in a new space.
Yeah.
Bryan has moved out of our house. Bryan and Aubrey.
I know. So sad.
You can bleep that out if Aubrey wants to maintain anonymity, Bryan.
Their addresses.
Come swim in their pool at their apartment building. Just kidding. But yeah, so and we switched mics. I don't have a pop guard, so if my peas are going wild, it's because I don't have my pop guard on. Anyway, so it's good to be in Bryan's new place. The sound may be a little bit different, but we'll figure out this new place that we're recording at. And then before we get into the chapter, we said we were going to come up with what was the word? Like our committee? No.
Our
council?
mastermind group. Or is that what it's
It
called?
wasn't real. It was like his imagined.
It's like an imaginary council or something.
Yeah, where he was having all these people that he was talking to, like Lincoln and. I don't know why I can't find it. Just skimming through the last chapters. Because when did we talk about it? It was not. Anyway, so I asked you, Maegan, who would you put in your... We were just going to choose like 5 people.
Yeah.
That we are going to put into our imagined...
Our imaginary...
Oh, gosh. I don't know why it disappeared in my notes here. But basically...
Is it in our text?
Our imagined... I don't think I put the official word in there. So anyway, you guys remember. Go back a couple episodes. You'll hear us talk about how Napoleon Hill started imagining these meetings with these various people from history. Napoleon, right?
Yeah. Napoleon, Abraham Lincoln.
And how Lincoln came to him one night and said,
Yeah.
you need to start your meetings again and you need to continue with this process because it's important. Everybody needs what you're doing, right?
Yeah. So interesting.
So if you were to set up your own council like that, Maegan, who is in your council?
So I've thought about this a lot, and I think I said last time, for sure, my favorite podcaster, Kinsey Madsen, would be in my council. And
What's her podcast called?
her podcast is called Cosmic CEO. It's so good. I've been listening to it for like over 5 years now, probably, but I just love her. I love all of her content. I think.
Would I like her podcast?
Maybe. She's very like, what's the word? I think you would like it. She's very just like, she's so like herself or something, and she just like, sometimes she'll like kind of go off on like tangents like we do, but, but no, she's just so charismatic and confident, and like, every time I listen to her, I just feel so inspired. She's probably like, yeah, I just get so inspired every time I listen to her and just feel so like abundant and limitless.
Okay.
So for sure her, and then there's this other girl I like listening to her podcast. Her name is Kenzie. And I can't remember her last name, but her podcast is called the House Guest Podcast. And I really like her because she's just very, she kind of just chats with you, but I don't know how to describe her, but I really like her. I love all of her projects she's doing, and I just like listening to her. And then I'm going to be honest, I feel like I don't have a lot of people I look up to who are like famous people other than that. I don't know if that's weird, but I remember when I was younger, I used to always look up to famous people, but I kind of feel like, I mean, I have those 2 girls, and then I feel like the rest of my council would just be like my friends and family.
Really?
Yeah, because I just
so
feel like
I
those
could be on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoa.
Absolutely.
I would be honored.
Yeah, I would love to have you.
Except it's imagined, right?
It is imaginary, so you can't physically be there, but
Yeah.
but I'll let you know what happens.
Okay.
Also, real quick, could you take off the lid off of the Dutch oven?
Megan is making bread
I'm making
while we're here.
I have had.
She's asking Bryan to do
I've
extra
had
things.
the busiest day today. This
You're
is the
going to have
only
to
time
give
I
some
can-
of your dollar to
I
Bryan
know.
for
I'll
this.
give you.
You just want me to take the
Just
lid
take the
off?
lid off. Use the towel because it's so hot. Seriously, I burned myself one time, so be careful.
Okay, so the people on my list, so I reduced it to 5. But the thing is, these are, if you're imagining these meetings, then it's kind of like your imagined version of them.
That's true. Yeah.
Right? So it's not even like really them.
It's not really the true them, but it's how you perceive them or
Yeah.
how you envision them being.
So one of them would be Anselm Kiefer. He's a brilliant contemporary artist. He's pretty elderly now, but he does these most amazing giant installation paintings. One is Brandon Flowers, just because actually it's weird. I have 2 musicians on my list here. Brandon Flowers, who I've met and actually done some artwork for. But I don't know. I just want to know, like, I want to see inside his brain, kind of.
Yeah.
The third is Jennifer Finlayson Fife, who I've also met.
Oh, that's a good one.
And is a favorite guru in my life.
That's a really
I learned
good
a lot
one.
about just being, self-development, not needing to control, kind of living with the tension between being myself, my own person, but also a person who belongs to certain communities. And then
I would put her on my council too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I would include Reverend Martin Luther King because I am interested in social justice and activism and also the intersection of Christianity and then for the similar reasons I would put Bono on there because of activism, Christianity, but also entertainment. Like that's my favorite intersection.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I like to imagine that I live, is in that intersection. So I would just be able to learn a lot from those. Now, is that useful, having that? I think it could be. Like, I think it could be useful to say, what would these people do instead of what would my parents tell me to do, or what would my such and such teacher tell me to do, or what would my aunt say, or those kinds of things. I think it would be an interesting thought exercise to say, if I'm facing this problem, what do I think these people might tell me?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I honestly kind of would put myself on that council because I just feel like whenever I don't know what to do, I just am like, what do I want to do? What do I feel like is right to do or something?
You put yourself on my council?
I would put myself.
Megan, you're really...
Just kidding. I would put myself on my own council.
Well, that's what Napoleon Hill did too, right? He was like, first I was attending the meetings, and then I became the chair.
Oh yeah, he was the chairman. Yeah,
I conducted the meetings and all that stuff.
So it's not that original.
No, I mean, I think that's an interesting thought too. So, if any of you all have done this, message us. Message the self-help hangover at Instagram. Sorry, on Instagram at self-help hangover.
And maybe with your permission, we could even, if anyone messages, we could share like anonymously. It would be kind of interesting to hear other people's, but no pressure, obviously. If you don't, feel free to message, and I will not share unless you explicitly say you would like me to.
Well, are you saying that they can message us
and we share it on the podcast?
We share it, but not to say who the person was.
But not to say who the person was, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. Well, and also, If you have any, well, no, we're going to be recording our wrap-up episode during this session, so it's too
Yeah.
late. But we appreciate those of you who have messaged us
Yeah.
throughout this first book, because in the next episode we'll be covering some of those things.
We've gotten some good messages, so I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
All right, well, should we jump into our final chapter
Yes?
of Think and
and
Grow
Grow
Rich? Chapter 15. There's actually like a little page in between before the last chapter, chapter 14. It says, "The Depression was a blessing in disguise. It reduced the whole world to a new starting point that gives everyone a new opportunity."
That's interesting. Well, it reminds me of video games when the new season comes out and then everyone like has to go back to the starting level. And then it's
Yeah.
like it's like equal again.
Bryan's nodding. This is quite a reframe, isn't it?
It
the
really
Depression
is, yeah.
was horrible for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a very like rose-colored glasses version.
Yeah, I think he's really trying to help people think positively
Yeah.
about their situation, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it maybe holds up to scrutiny. For example, did everybody get a new opportunity? Perhaps people who had businesses that thrived and succeeded through the Depression had a new opportunity to think about business differently, to treat their employees differently. I guess you could say that everyone has a new opportunity,
Yeah.
but I thought it was an interesting reframe and possibly oversimplified. But honestly, sometimes simplifying our approach to something can pull us out of a rut.
Yeah.
So there might be some good value in that. Okay, the Sixth Sense. No, that was chapter 14. Oh, that is where I was looking through the chapters before that. That's why I couldn't find it. It was called An Imaginary Council.
Oh, so
Without getting
Yeah.
back into that, that was what it was called, Imaginary Council. So we are actually on chapter 15, How to Outwit the Six Ghosts of Fear. Do you remember what the six ghosts of fear are? Or the six basic fears?
no.
I'll just tell you really fast. The fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. And according to Napoleon Hill, all other fears are of minor importance or can be grouped under these.
Wait, so okay.
Okay, so have you experienced any of those? The fear of poverty, fear of criticism, fear of ill health, loss of love of someone, old age, and death.
I think I've experienced all of those.
Okay, I think I have also. Yeah. And I guess we could go into them. I don't know. Should we just go through the chapter or should we talk about our own experiences with those fears? What makes you tell me about how you've experienced the fear of poverty?
I've never been in a situation where I feel like I would be homeless. I've never had to experience that, which is I'm very grateful for. But that's definitely something I think about in the future. Like I get nervous about not being able to make enough money or not being able to pay for my house in the future. So that's something I definitely worry about, money a lot, or just not being able to, maybe just being afraid that I'll never not have to worry about money.
Uh-huh. I think that it is scary. Like a lot of people, for example, artists. I'm an artist, and I had to at some point make a decision. What are you going to study? And what are you going to pursue a career in art? And I think I've mentioned this before, but I had several people when I declared my art major contact me and kind of challenge me and say, "What are you doing? How are you going to pay for a family and stuff like that?" So they had maybe even a greater fear of poverty for me than I had for myself in those moments. But then, as a married person with a partner who also has fears of poverty at times too, sometimes you have to work through the fear of poverty of your partner as well as yourself. Hopefully you're not both like dragged down by that fear at the same time.
Yeah.
So, but there is an exercise that I've done with Amy, with your mom sometimes, that is what's the worst case scenario.
Oh, she's told me about this.
Yeah. How would you survive emotionally through the worst case scenario? So we've had those conversations many times.
That's awesome.
Have you ever done anything like that?
Honestly, no. Well, sometimes, I mean, not in that same way, but like sometimes I've had therapists say when I express a fear, they'll say, "And what if that happens? Like, then what?" And then I'm just like, well, I guess life goes on, kind of, or like she'll be like, what happens then, or like what's the worst thing that can happen? I'll kind of think about it and just realize that I can handle it even if the worst thing does happen. But yeah, I guess not explicitly like how you say, like thinking about the worst case scenarios, but I mean similar to that.
Do you think that is a destructive exercise? Because if you're thinking about the worst case scenario, then you are planting the seed of negative thoughts?
No, I don't think it is at all. Like, actually, so I've been doing these exercises that this girl, Kinsey Madsen, Cosmic CEO, maybe one day she'll listen to this, but
Do you hear this, Kinsey? Did you say Kinsey?
Kinsey, yeah.
Kinsey,
Just kidding.
$6 will advertise here. You could really use a boost from our...
No, but one of the, because she's all about abundance, manifestation, all of that stuff. But one of the exercises she does is listing out your fear around something and the worst thing that could happen. And she talks about, like, I know that sounds scary, and you might think you're going to manifest that, but I promise you're not going to. And I just was like, okay, yeah, it's fine. I think if you're like constantly thinking about it, maybe, but no, I don't think so. I think it's a good thing to do because, I mean, it's comforting to me to think about the worst case scenario and just kind of realize like I would be okay and I could get through that.
Yeah. There was, in fact, I just talked about in my imaginary council that Anselm Kiefer is on it. There's a documentary about him called Anselm. And in that documentary, he says something about how this world is so unlikely, like just where we are spinning around on a globe, hurling through space at crazy speeds, and we're so tiny. We're this tiny, tiny piece of a giant, infinite universe, and that failure is just built into what happens in the universe. Like the universe is full of failures, And so, and because of, I'm not saying as eloquently as he said it, but you might as well try, right? Like you might as well
Yeah.
try stuff, because even if you fail, it's of probably relatively little consequence in the grand scheme of things. And so just try, you know.
Wow. That's really profound. Like that really hit hard with me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
The way you said it, it sounded,
Well,
it
I
sounded
was trying
like
to say, well, like, I just, like, I'm dead serious. That really was profound.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so that's the fear of poverty. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to say about that. Sometimes when I think about worst case scenarios, I think about, well, if I couldn't even afford art supplies, I could still make art out of garbage. Like I could raid the dumpster and put things together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've tried to do a lot of things to hedge against failure, and maybe some of those things have held me back. But also, some of them have created stability for my family. And so I think that the fear of poverty can lead us to do things that create stability. So we can use that fear in good ways. But also I think it's a good idea to kind of step back and take a broader view sometimes and analyze and say, is my fear of poverty keeping me from taking risks that might lead to greater things in my life, right?
Yeah.
And kind of assess what your risk tolerance is.
Yeah.
When you're investing, like when we meet with our financial advisor, he'll say, well, what's your risk tolerance? Like, do you want me to try to get higher returns and risk losing your money, or do you want me to play it safe and have smaller returns?
Yeah.
And that's something that everybody has to kind of decide. And when you're in a partnership, you decide together, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we see a lot of entrepreneurs ending up splitting up, and who knows for what reasons. But I think this could be a common reason, is a discrepancy in risk tolerance between partners. That can be something that's hard to work through.
Yeah, for sure.
Any other thoughts about fear of poverty?
I don't think so.
Okay, how about the fear of criticism? That's the second one.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of this, but I've gotten over it a lot because I think this has just been something I've tried to work on a lot in my life, because it's scary. If people will always criticize you and sorry, my mind is blanking. But I think it's something I've been trying to work on a lot, is not caring what people think about me.
Yeah, so the fear of criticism. I'm coming at this from the perspective of an artist, and that takes a lot. It takes a lot of for art students. I'd say a large percentage of people, the thing that largely holds them back is they're scared to put their work out there.
Yeah.
For fear of criticism, or maybe just like the vulnerable feeling of it, for being worried that their work isn't good enough, or for when they put it out, they haven't gotten the response that they wanted, and so do we keep trying, or self-doubt in those instances. And I don't know, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I was talking to my friend the other day about like success and caring about what people think. and it got kind of deep, and I was talking about how I am so scared of not succeeding because part of me just wants to show like all of the people who have ever not liked me that I can be capable of great things in life. And she told me, she said, the irony of that is that the more success you have, the more people are going to dislike you. And I just thought that was really interesting because,
Well, the larger the circle is of people who are aware of you, right?
yeah, the more
And
people
that's
are going to
rope
dislike you.
in.
And people are dislike people for having success, especially when you have something that they don't, that maybe they want. And so I just thought that was really interesting perspective. I don't know if that's helpful to anybody, but it kind of was helpful to me. It's like I can't just prove to everybody in the world that I'm worthy of liking, and I have to kind of let go of that need.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about, should I push myself to develop a larger audience?
Yeah.
Should I start hiring like a publicist?
Yeah.
Should I try to do all these different things? Bryan here used to tease me that I was a D- celebrity when he was a young lad. And so should I try to become like a B celebrity or something? But I think I've been kind of thoughtful about how much exposure do I want and what kind of life do I want to live, and am I making an okay living?
Yeah.
Do I want to throw myself into a place of being known and famous that I can't really retreat from fully? So right now I'm kind of enjoying where I'm at, what kind of exposure I have to the public, but that might change in the future. Maybe I will risk more criticism and seek a larger audience someday.
Yeah.
But those are things to think about.
It really is. Sometimes I think about people who have such a large following and just the amount of criticisms they get is so scary to me. Like, I just think about if I was put in that position for a day and all the being so perceived and so having so many comments about me, I would be so scared. So I would probably have to ease my way into that if I did get to that point.
Do you think that fear is holding you back at all?
I mean, honestly, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, my worst fear is like I go onto Reddit and just see something about me on Reddit, which I'm not famous enough to be on Reddit, but
Yeah.
so maybe it is holding me back, but
Interesting. Yeah, I try not to Google myself. I try not to look at the Wikipedia entry about me. I try not to read reviews for my Airbnb. like there's so many things that I kind of just bury my head and try to ignore. I know I just got a bad review on Airbnb because because there was a special email or notification that said you got like a 2-star review.
oh no, did you read it?
So yeah, I read it. They were like, it's really scary coming there at night, and there were spiders in my bed, and I'm like, yeah, it is scary. There's not much I can do about that, and probably got cleaned a few days before you arrived, and so spiders had a chance to
get in there.
So anyway,
Ooh, yeah.
I think if it scares enough people away, then they're just not up for the scary experience that we're providing them.
You should start promoting it as
The
scary,
Halloween, like a themed
yeah.
Airbnb. I could just put like big fuzzy spiders up all over and embrace it.
Yeah.
So this is what we're offering, okay? Yeah, I mean, we live in a new time when everything is rated.
Everything's
right?
rated, yeah.
By the way, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast.
And we won't read them if it's a bad review.
That's right. Or we'll embrace the midness, the mediocrity.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to say about fear of criticism?
I don't think so. If you are looking to up your workout game and you want some nice new resistance bands, I sell 3 packs of booty bands, just small resistance bands that come in 3 sizes, small, medium, and heavy. I guess light, medium, and heavy. I sell those on my Instagram in my link tree. Go check out my Instagram at maegs.fitness. That's maegs.fitness. And if you click in the link, there is a link to my booty bands, and feel free to check those out.
Next one is fear of ill health. Have you ever...
Oh, yeah.
Do you have fear about that?
Yeah, I always have health anxiety. So I'm always worrying about my health. And like anytime something happens, I always think that I have cancer or something. So I definitely have health anxiety in that way. And I also worry about my family's health a lot.
So he said, do you remember what he said about health in this chapter?
I'm sorry.
He talked about how it's so much of it is in your mind.
Yeah. It's so true because I've noticed my anxiety makes me so nauseous.
I mean, I would concede that there is a connection between your mind and your health.
Yeah.
And I also believe that there are viruses and bacteria that will get you even if your mental health is good.
Yeah. It's so true. And it's so sad because people who do everything right in their life will get like cancer or some other disease. And it's just sad because sometimes you can do everything right and it's just genetic.
So in this episode, Napoleon Hill says that there is, I want to read it exactly so I don't paraphrase him wrongly here. He says there is oh, come on. Basically, here it is. A reputable physician estimated that 75% of all people who visit physicians for professional service are suffering with hypochondria, imaginary illness.
That's so true. I've gone to the urgent care so many times, and it's...
Because of your own hypochondria?
Yeah, I think so.
It has been shown, I'm still reading, most convincingly that the fear of disease, even where there is not the slightest cause for fear, often produces the physical symptoms of the disease feared. Do you think that's so true?
Yeah, absolutely. I think because just a few months ago, my asthma was pretty bad, so I was doing my inhaler, and your inhaler makes you anxious and it makes your heart rate speed up. So that was happening to me, and I was feeling my heart rate speed up, and I looked up the symptoms of a heart attack, and I was certain I was having a heart attack, and I left work, and I went to the urgent care, and when I told the lady that I thought I was having a heart attack, she was kind of laughing because she was like, there's no way you're having a heart attack. Like,
okay, so I take your point. But also, 75%, there is no way that 75% of doctors' visits are all in their mind.
What did you say? Turn off the oven? Yeah, you can. Sorry.
Got to check on the bread. Okay, so my point is, when I Googled this, there were a lot of different statistics on different sites and stuff. But the average that I could kind of come to in my quick search is that about 5% of visits our imagined illness.
Are you serious? That's
so I mean, so I don't know how your visit would qualify, because what you're saying is you thought you were having a heart attack, but you did have asthma, right? So it's not like you were imagining asthma.
That's true.
And can you, through the power of your mind and thinking, get rid of asthma?
No. Mm-mm.
Are you sure?
I mean, not permanently. Like,
see, I don't know enough about asthma, but I agree.
Yeah, like you can't. Yeah, I can't. I mean, even if I'm doing positive thinking, if I'm having like my asthma, having a hard time breathing, that's not going to go away. But
okay.
you can, but definitely for sure, anxiety exacerbates. Anxiety, or excuse me, it exacerbates asthma.
Yeah.
Because during that whole week, I was having really bad asthma, and I was freaking out. There was a few times I went to the urgent care, and Josh told me, he was like, you have to calm down, because you are making it so much worse by getting so worked up about it. And he told me that basically when EMTs get to people who have asthma, all they can do really is give them an inhaler and try to get them to calm down. And if they can't get them to calm down, then they'll take them to the hospital. But like the anxiety does make it so much worse. But that being said, I can't make it go away just by positive thinking. Like
what about positive thinking and exercise? Will that help your asthma?
I can never get it to fully go away, from what I understand. But I can definitely strengthen my lungs and improve my asthma. But asthma is pretty permanent.
Okay.
But I definitely have seen improvements in my lungs, though, over time.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that I can appreciate the connection of mind and body, and, even the idea of placebo, and thinking that, like, the power of our mind to lift us out of a certain health issue. But 75%, I don't think so, Napoleon. And then the other thing is, he talks about a flu epidemic where the New York City mayor called the newspapers and said, stop talking about the flu. Unless you cooperate with me, we will have a situation which we cannot control. The newspapers quit publishing stories about the flu, and within 1 month, the epidemic had been successfully checked.
Wait. Oh, wow. So once they stopped talking about it, the epidemic was ended soon after.
Within a month.
Wow. I don't know. Do you think that correlates with that, or?
I think that there's a very loose correlation. Like, he's really tying things in
without causation.
I think there might not even be correlation. Like, it might just be a function of time, a function of other efforts to rein in the spreading flu.
Yeah.
We lived, of course, through COVID, the COVID pandemic, which a lot of people would agree with Napoleon Hill on this, that we should have just thought positively and
just gone our way,
and not gotten vaccines, not had all of that intervention.
Something I did hear, though, and I don't know if this is true, but I heard this story, and I'll have to fact check this. Let me know what you guys think. But I heard this story about this guy who was told that he only had a few months left to live, and he died after a few months, and afterwards they realized his diagnosis was totally wrong, and he wasn't supposed to die, but he died, and people think that it's like.
I think you texted the family group.
I did,
this,
yeah.
And I was like, I was very skeptical of that story. So this might be the key difference between my worldview and your worldview, Maegan.
Maybe that is where the difference is, but so I don't know if anyone knows that guy that happened to and can confirm it.
I'll just reiterate my position, which is that I trust the larger scientific and medical consensus.
Overall,
And
yeah.
I believe that it's good to push against it so that we can continue to develop, right?
Yeah,
not
sure.
to fall into the traps of groupthink, but also like follow the data,
Yeah.
And I sure am grateful for modern medicine.
Me too, yeah. Yeah, I really am.
Speaking of modern medicine, did you read this chapter,
I
Maegan?
did not read this
Oh,
chapter.
she didn't even read it.
I'm so sorry. I've read
That's
all the
it.
other
Let's
chapters.
stop this episode right now.
So
We'll
sorry,
come back.
guys.
Maegan,
I will. Sorry.
you graduated. You have all this time now, right?
I know. I don't know why. I swear, since I've been graduated, I've been busier than ever. I don't know
it's been
why.
a busy
It's
week
just
for
been
me
so
too.
busy. So I'm so sorry,
That's
everybody.
okay. I'm going to read this whole paragraph then because this is classic. Okay?
Bryan is laughing. So.
A young man suffered a disappointment in love which sent him to a hospital. For months he hovered between life and death. A specialist in suggestive therapeutics was called in. The specialist changed nurses, placing him in the charge of a very charming young woman who began, by prearrangement with the doctor, to make love to him the first day of her arrival on the job. Within 3 weeks, the patient was discharged from the hospital, still suffering, but with an entirely different malady. He was in love again. The remedy was a hoax, but the patient and the nurse were later married. Both are in good health at the time of this writing.
That is an insane story.
It really, I read that and I was like, oh my goodness. That is hilarious and horrid and all of these things at the same time. Yeah,
That is
let's
just
just all
crazy.
hire nurses to have sex on the first day.
The fact she got with permission, she made love to him. Like, that is crazy.
Is that what it said?
Or-
The first day of arrival in Dublin, who began by prearrangement with
Yeah,
the
with
doctor.
prearrangement.
She got
yeah.
the doctor's permission. Who knows about the patients? I don't know. There are some serious ethics.
That is, yeah.
Ethics problems here, but what a story!
Crazy
right?
story.
What a story. Okay, so that's the fear of ill health. I do feel that sometimes. Like I have my own health issues. I've got a benign heart murmur that I've had since young adulthood, maybe before that. So yeah, that's one of the reasons I run. We ran a 5K this weekend.
Yeah, we just ran a 5K.
I'm always trying to keep my heart at least
Healthy.
in moderately good shape.
Yeah.
So,
And he is fast. My dad is really fast.
I'm not that fast, but thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, the fear of loss of love of someone.
This is my biggest fear ever.
Really, tell me about that.
My biggest fear is someone I love dying, like my family or my partner or like those are the biggest fear. Like my partner, my parents, or one of my siblings dying. I just could not handle it. And I know once I have kids, it will be my kids, but that's seriously my biggest fear ever. I just don't think I could handle that.
So, if they die or if
they died.
Okay, so that is, I guess that's loss of love.
Or is that not the same thing that...
He's more talking, I think, about of somebody leaving you.
Oh,
or you
okay.
leaving, He says, the fear of the loss of love probably dates back to the Stone Age when men stole women by brute force. They continued to steal females, but their technique has changed. Instead of force, they now use persuasion. the promise of pretty clothes, motor cars, and other bait much more effective than physical force. Man's habits are the same as they were at the dawn of civilization, but he expresses them differently. And then a couple lines down says, women have learned from experience that men are polygamous by nature, that they are not to be trusted in the hands of rivals.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy.
He's mentioned the polygamous nature of men several
All
times
of
in this
that
book,
is
right?
just, yeah, I cannot believe that. What do you think about that? Do you think that men are polygamists in nature, like are naturally?
Well, largely the picture he is painting here is that men are the agents and that women are kind of reacting.
Yeah,
So I think the first thing that I would say is that both men and women have their own agency, and
yeah, for sure.
the other thing that I would say is that men are not necessarily polygamous by nature any more than women are.
Yeah.
Polygynous by nature. But wait, that's not the right word. What's the word for men? For multiple men and one woman? I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
So I think that many people throughout history have by nature wanted to be monogamous.
Yeah.
So that's a second point that I would make. And then, I don't know. I guess those kind of assumptions worry me in 2025.
Yeah.
I wonder how prevalent they were in 1937. Maybe they were ubiquitous then, but today I think we can think about humanity in a broader spectrum of ways.
Yeah, for sure.
So the fear of loss of love of someone.
So sorry, I misinterpreted that one. But my worst fear, which I don't know what that would fit under in here, maybe fear of death. But my worst fear is my partner or my family dying.
Okay, so that could be. I mean, it probably feeds into both, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We could just talk about the last three.
Okay.
The fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, and the fear of death.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to say about
I don't.
any of those?
I'm not as scared of old age. I don't think about the fear of death so much, but I do think about the fear of other people I know dying. That's very scary to me. But I mean, I have been afraid of old age, but I mean, not really. Maybe it's because I spend so much time with my silver sneakers class. And it just doesn't.
They're
like,
young, right? Young at heart.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're just, I mean, honestly, they make growing old seem really great. Besides, obviously, a lot of, many of them have lost their partner, which is the downside. But I mean, but a lot of them seem happy and healthy. So
Well, so yeah, loss of love of someone, old age, and death. Maybe I'll just tell you about the thing that has most affected me in the last few years, and that I think has been tied into the fear of old age. But I have kind of been working through some despair.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like loss of purpose.
Oh, that surprises me.
And part of that, I think, stems from seeing. So a lot of my meaning has come from religion and from, what's the word? Like activism.
Yeah.
And trying to push my community in progressive ways.
Yeah.
And so seeing retrenchment into like regressive ideas, and some of those perpetuated by like my contemporaries, people that I thought, well, when we're in charge, we'll make the world better.
Oh,
right?
really? Like people you thought would make, like those people are going back to more regressive
Yeah, or
ideals.
just kind of making policy and doctrine and things that are like reining things back into a conservative or what I would consider a regressive place.
Yeah.
So me seeing that and thinking like all of these efforts are wasted.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, my life's purpose is not panning out. That has made me despair. And then like also trying to bring my religious community along in those ways too, and then having my family just say this is not important to us at all.
Like religion isn't?
Yeah, so like that also brought me a loss of meaning. Like I don't have motivation to try to bring the religion or the community in progressive ways because my family, like my family's future is not in it.
Yeah.
Right?
I get that.
So all of those things have kind of combined for me in the last few years to be like, what is the purpose? For a while I thought maybe the purpose was beauty. Maybe it's going to be about like art and fashion and, you know, just trying to make things aesthetic. And I realized that that's not a good place to be either.
Oh, really? Well, I feel like there's been probably more than ever, correct me or tell me if you disagree, but there's a bigger community of nuanced Mormons who are more progressive than probably ever. Because there's a lot of people who still want to make the church work in their lives, but I think there's a large community of people who want to do that, but also want to push the church in that direction of being more progressive and try to make the church a more progressive place for people who are maybe minorities or...
I agree with that. And also I've had to remind myself of that and consciously tell myself that and say, Kirk, this is what's going on. This is the progress that's been made, even though sometimes it feels like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Things are moving. And then also the thing that's really helped me is committing myself to reconnecting, having connection with friends and family and doing that in new ways and meeting with a therapist, honestly, to kind of have some, what's the word, to have to report, right?
Yeah.
To have some follow through. So anyway, a lot of those things have helped me in the last couple of years deal with the despair that has come, I would say, peripherally or as something underneath the umbrella of the fear of old age.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but I think there's a lot of people who look up to you because you help them kind of feel like they can be in the church without having to agree with everything in the church. Because I know a lot of people struggle with that, feeling like there's things they don't agree with, but they still want to have it be a part of their lives.
Well, thanks, Maegan.
You're welcome.
So those are the 6 fears. There was a 7th one. Do you remember that? Oh no, you don't remember it because you didn't read it.
Yeah.
So he has this big chapter about the 6 fears, and then he's like, oh, by the way, number 7 is the devil's workshop, the seventh basic evil, and that is, for want of a better name, let us call this evil susceptibility to negative influences.
So this is like becoming like evil or something.
No, I think it's just listening to negative influences.
Oh, okay.
He says, listen to this paragraph. Unfortunately, there is no legal protection against those who either by design or ignorance poison the minds of others by negative suggestion. This form of destruction should be punishable by heavy legal penalties because it may and often does destroy one's chances of acquiring material things which are protected by law.
I don't know why, but when I think about this, it makes me think about drugs. Like, I feel like drugs would fall under this, maybe. That's how I don't know why that's what comes to mind for me.
I think that certainly is destructive. Like, drugs can be very destructive, right?
Yeah.
But also, what he's basically saying is it should be against the law to be negative about something.
Oh.
To express a negative opinion to your acquaintances, because that might destroy their chance of their acquiring their dreams or whatever. So you should if you're telling your friend something negative, there should be legal consequences.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's super extreme. 'Cause I mean, everyone's negative sometimes, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I also think Napoleon Hill is negative sometimes in this book.
Yeah, okay, what are some of the things he's negative about?
I mean, he's negative about government involvement and people who don't support capitalism.
Yeah.
And there's various things. I know more will come to mind in a second.
Right. So how do we go through the world and with like one of the purposes of this podcast is to approach self-help media with a critical mind.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think our goal is to be negative.
We might need to be arrested after this.
Please do not arrest us for this podcast. Our goal isn't to be negative, but it is to be smart, right?
Yeah.
To think about what's good and what's bad, and part of that involves saying we think these things are not great.
Yeah.
And we think these things are good. And so I don't know another way to live, honestly. I have met people who are super nice and very positive.
My mom's mom, my grandma.
She is very nice.
Yeah.
And I'm bless her memory because she's passed away.
Yeah.
But sometimes I wonder, like, I was actually talking to another friend who was talking to her mom, and this friend said, my friend criticized something, and the mom said, why do you think that way, or why do you talk that way? And my friend said to her mom, well, if I didn't think like this, I wouldn't be able to do what I do.
Yeah.
And
that's so valid.
That is something that I remind myself. Like, I have an inner critic that's strong. Like, I'm criticizing myself, my own artwork, the world around me, the actions of people around me, and it's strong. And so I have to remember that there is a positive side to that as well, which is like my artwork would be a lot worse than it is if the critic didn't kick in sometimes.
Yeah.
right? So
You have to be critical or you'll get taken advantage of or not be able to stand up for yourself or not realize when you're being disrespected or yeah, even with your own work, I think it's good to a degree to be critical of yourself and use that to push yourself
yeah,
and raise yourself to higher standards.
yeah, yeah, and critical about, like you say, business opportunities, thinking about what is it that I want to get out of this? Do I believe in this cause? Do I believe in the ethics around this business? Like all of those things need to be weighed before you just jump right in, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so anyway. So it might be the devil's playground, but also it is the angel is in the details, as
Yeah.
people often say as well. So, okay, the book ends with a list of self-analysis questions. I'm not going to go over those. We've gone on long enough probably in this episode, but I'll just give you a taste of those. Are you careless of your personal appearance? If so, when and why? Are you easily influenced by others? Who among your acquaintances encourages you most, cautions you most, discourages you most, helps you most in other ways? So you can take that it's like 3 pages of questions that you can ask yourself and take self-inventory. There's another list later of alibis, 57 famous alibis by Old Man If. If I didn't have a wife and family, if I had money, if I had a good education, if only I had time, if other people didn't have it in for me, if I were only younger. Do you have any ifs like that, Maegan?
Yeah. Sometimes I think, well, I mean, if only I had more money, that's a big one. If only I had more money, I would do this. If only I mean, there's always things like I've noticed, I'm like, if only I was more muscly or more skinnier, or if I had longer hair, and then I get hair extensions and then it doesn't, and then there's something else. So it's just like, there will always be something. You just gotta do it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got plenty of ifs in my life. If I didn't grow up in Provo, if I didn't, if I didn't have a heart valve leak, like all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to remember, well, first of all, just to remember that we've got those, but to remember that everybody has some things like
Yeah.
that. It's easy to look at other people's lives and not realize that they are working through difficulties, that they've gone through so much to get to where they are in their career, all of those kinds of things. And so just remembering that can help us say, well, I'm not going to let this if hold me back.
Yeah. It's so true. And I think sometimes looking at examples of people who maybe have the same things that you're struggling with and like people who are successful and being like, oh dang, like they did it so I can do it. I'm trying to think of an example, but
and it's also like this can be limiting perhaps, but also realizing that many people, even though they're going through a lot, they also have advantages that you might not have.
yeah, for sure.
Particularly in today's world where the most visible among us often have come from privileged places with lots of resources.
Yeah.
And so realizing that as well can be something to put things into perspective. And but I do believe that we can try to reach beyond what we think our current limitations are.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that might be one of the main benefits from reading a book like Think and Grow Rich, is to think about moving beyond those limitations.
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, so that's the book. Is there anything else? We're going to do a wrap-up episode next week. We're going to record it
We're
today.
going to record it now, but...
And we're also going to try to record a history of Napoleon Hill for a Patreon. We're going to try to start a Patreon.
Yeah, let us know what you would like to hear for a Patreon, because I honestly don't know that much about Patreons, but we want to try to start one, and we were thinking of doing something with like T-shirts or something. I think we maybe mentioned this already, but doing T-shirts and extra episodes.
We're just trying to figure out a way to get our muns, right?
Yeah, we got to pay Bryan.
we gotta pay Bryan for his time, and expertise, and we gotta get Maegan moving towards her gym that she's gonna own.
That's my dream.
One day,
I would
right?
love to own a gym. So
yeah.
But yeah, so let us know, and thank you so much for listening. Also, sorry I didn't listen to the last chapter, but we are gonna do another book. We're gonna do.
Oh yeah.
We're thinking. Can I say it?
Yeah.
We're gonna do "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero.
Do we have to put explicit on all our episodes if we keep saying that title?
I don't think "ass" is inappropriate enough.
I doubt it. Okay.
I doubt it.
Okay, well, if I just say "you are a bad A" over and over again, will you all forgive me?
My dad doesn't swear.
For
Just
being
kidding. He does
such a prude.
But anyways, so so that we're doing that book, because that's been a book that I've always loved. I've really loved, but I am hearing some things about it that are not so good. So this might ruin the book for me. Just kidding, but
Well, we don't want to ruin it, but
no, I won't ruin it.
We do want
for
to
me.
think.
But we do want to think critically.
Yeah, and again, take the good and leave the bad, and just understand. Just have a better understanding of motivations and principles and all of those things. So, I think one of the themes of ultimately, we're going to address this in the next episode with the questions from people, is like, how do we not throw out the baby with the bathwater?
Yeah.
Right?
It's true. Yeah, so that is, So I'm really excied to start getting into this next book. I cannot believe we finished Think and Grow Rich.
We did
We didn't think we'd ever do it.
Maegan read most of the chapters.
I did read most of the chapters, and now I'll go back and read the last one, because I've read it forever ago, but I'll reread it. But anyways, thank you so much for listening, and you guys are just awesome. We've had so much good feedback that has really made me so humbled. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode.